Hi there. Welcome to a series of videos called English for Emerson. This is a very difficult lesson. Very difficult, very complex. But I'm going to do it anyway just because. You got to do something in this world. This lesson is going to be about sailing. Do you know I've never been on a sailboat in my life? But I think a sailboat is one of the most beautiful creations of all of mankind from the beginning of time. When you see a sailboat go by in the water at full sail, it's just something that just kind of lifts your spirits. It is absolutely gorgeous. A sailboat in full sail on a pleasant day out on the water. Oh my God, it's just an absolutely beautiful sight. And it's kind of sad. There's a lot of sailboats nowadays, but they're kind of small usually. And the big sailing ships that once upon a time were the kings of the sea, they're mostly gone now because they take so much maintenance on the sails and all the ropes and all the wood and, all the rotting of the wood and the rotting of the sails and the rotting of the ropes, the sun and the sea take a tremendous toll on a boat. And if you don't work on them almost all the time, they just decay. What does decay mean? It means it rots. So people, naturally it's very expensive to have a humongous sailboat. And it takes a lot of people to run a sailboat, to haul the sails up and down. Very dangerous, way up on top of masts that are very high in the air. It's not practical. But my God, what a beautiful sight. The old time sailing ships, the big tall ships with the multiple masts and the multiple sails. It's just absolutely a spectacular sight. Sailing was really coming into its own during the time after the Renaissance. There were several hundred years when sailing ships were the biggest thing going before the engines came along and replaced them. Sailing ships were just it, and absolutely a beautiful thing. And there's so many sailors from days gone by who had so much knowledge about how these ships worked and how to do everything on the boat, and all that knowledge is gone, basically. Yes, people still sail, and there's still sailors, but not like the old times with the great big huge boats. It's different now. And it's still a beautiful thing to see a sailboat in full sail. We have a lot of sailboats here in Florida, but they're not used very often. Most of the time people learn how to do it and park them in the marina, and they slowly just fall apart. It's too much work. Well, today's lesson is going to be all about how a sailboat works. Not all about it, but a little bit about it. Back in the old times, sailors who had to row those boats as they went off to battle or as they did trading back and forth. Well, they finally figured out, if there was a strong wind going, they put up a big mast in the middle of the ship and hooked up a crossbar to it at the top and hooked up a great big piece of cloth to it. With the wind, if it was at their back, it would push them through the water and they wouldn't have to row. It's, people would rather relax than row a boat most of the time. And the sailors figured out that if they could run with the wind, they wouldn't have to do any work. And that was a very, very nice thing to do. But it was kind of limiting, because if you only could go in the direction that the wind was blowing, well, that made it kind of difficult, because you were going to have to row back. And rowing is a heck of a lot of work, and it takes a lot of men. So one of the greatest inventions in sailing was a new kind of sail. The great big square sails, I'll put pictures up on the screen, were the ones that the wind would push the boat along from the back. If this is the sail and I'm the wind, it would push the boat, okay? But they came up with a new kind of sail called a lantine sail. I'll put a picture and the word lantine sail. It's kind of like a triangular sail. They kind of angled the mast, okay, up and down to the side. You know what I'm saying? Like this. And they figured out that if they could get wind to run across the front of the sail, it would actually pull the boat forward. Huh? I'll say it again, if you can get the wind to flow across the front of the sail, it will pull the boat forward against the wind. They learned this. That enabled them to sail into the wind, not directly into the wind, but if the wind is going this way and you want to go that way, they figured out that they could go, back and forth. Of course, long distances, but it was called tacking. They instead of running with the wind, they could do something called tacking against the wind and actually sail the opposite of the wind. Do you follow me? They could go against the wind with this principle that the air can pull you forward. It's the exact same principle that allows an airplane to fly. Air has pressure, okay? You can feel it. When you wave your hand around, you can feel the air. If you pump up a ball that you get from the store, you pump air into it, it can increase the pressure in the ball. And then you kick it and it goes a long ways. If you take the air out of the ball, suck it out, it goes flat. If you kick it, it just boom, it doesn't do anything. Air can apply pressure. Well, the principle of flight and the principle of sailing against the wind is that air can pull a plane up, in effect. How does it work? Here we go. I showed you that if I blow into the paper, I can push the paper forward. But if I put the paper a little lower, and now I'm going to put my lips above the paper. Okay, my lips are above the paper. I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to blow. As I blow air over the paper, it blows it very, very fast. And there's a thing called, it's a very complicated word, Bernoulli's principle that says, I'll put it up on the screen, the faster the speed of the air, the less pressure it has. As I blow air fast across the paper, the fast moving air has less pressure. Because the pressure above the paper is less, the pressure that is naturally under the paper flows, tries to kind of fill that vacuum. It's just the pressure below the paper lifting it up because the pressure above the paper has been reduced. This is how an airplane flies. The top of the wing of an airplane, I'll put it up on the screen. The top of the airplane wing is rounded. The bottom is flat. So as air goes above that bump of the airplane wing, it has to speed up. It goes faster as it goes over the top of that airplane wing. The air going below the wing just stays the same speed because it has less distance to travel. That air on the top has to go further. It has to go all the way around the hump. It has to run faster to catch up. That lifts the airplane wing up because the pressure below the wing stays the same. The pressure above the wing decreases. There's high pressure down here below the wing, low pressure above the wing, and that lifts the airplane. Because the air flowing over the wing has to run faster to catch up. Do you follow me? Because it has to go all the way around the hill, over the hill, fast. It has more distance to travel. Well, it has the same principle with a sail. They figured out with this thing called a Lantine sail that is they turned the boat at the correct angle to the wind, that the sail of the boat that was sticking out, the air would have to speed up, as it goes around that rounded surface of the sail, and it would pull the sail out and pull the boat forward because the pressure behind the sail is the same. I hope it's making sense. By having air go fast over the front of the sail, it pulls the boat forward. Now, this would not really work if the boat did not have something down in the water called a keel. Below the boat, there's it's like a fin that sticks down in the water, and it prevents the wind from blowing the boat across the surface of the water, because there's this big fin called a keel that sticks way down in the water. It makes it so it has something to kind of hold on to. The boat doesn't get blown across the water by the wind. And that wind going across the front of the lantine sail pulls the boat forward into the wind at an angle. I'll put up pictures of this on the screen. I hope you can see where I'm going with this in today's lesson. We talked in our last lesson about how it was Christopher Columbus's destiny to travel across the Atlantic Ocean and discover this new world. That was the idea that I put forth in the last lesson. Well, how was he able to do it? Because they had developed sailing ships at that time that had new kinds of sails called lantine sails that allowed boats to sail into the wind. Because if he only could go places with the wind at his back and just get pushed by the wind, he couldn't really go, wherever he wanted to go. He would only be able to go where the wind took him. They had developed a new kind of sailing technology at that time after the Renaissance that enabled sailors to sail into the wind with this new kind of sail that didn't just get pushed by the wind, but could actually get pulled by the wind forward. This is something called Bernoulli's principle. I'll say it again. It creates something called lift. That it enables airplanes to fly, and it enables sailing ships to sail forward into the wind. What an incredible thing that scientists they've discovered so many amazing things. And I think this Bernoulli's principle is one of the most incredible discoveries of mankind, because it enabled two of the greatest inventions that mankind has ever produced, and I think two of the most beautiful inventions that mankind has ever produced. The great sailing ships that were capable of sailing across all the oceans of the world wherever the sailors wanted to go. Absolutely incredible. And the other thing that the discovery of Bernoulli's principle gave us was the airplane. And now, of course, that kind of killed off the shipping industry to a large extent, but it's also a beautiful thing to see an airplane in flight. Almost as beautiful as one of the old, tall sailing ships of old.